Hello and welcome to Cooking with PMQ. I'm Brian Hernandez, and today I have in our kitchen a very special guest, the one, the only, the dough doctor, Mr. Tom Lehmann. Thank you very much for joining us
Brian,
today, sir.
It's been a pleasure.
So what are you going to show us right now?
What I'm going to show you right now is how to make an emergency dough.
Ah, perfect.
Now keep in mind that an emergency dough is just what it is. It's only to be used in a dire straight emergency.
We're going to make some dough, and about how long is this whole process going to take?
We will have dough that is ready to go in about an hour.
Okay, perfect. So if you see it coming, give yourself an hour advance notice. So step one, what are the amounts of ingredients we're going to use today?
Okay,
Tom?
our normal flour. I don't like to change the formula because all of our people, they're familiar with their normal formula.
And we've got 10 pounds here?
10 pounds of flour.
Okay. And then what are your baker's percents? And we'll put these baker's percents up on our site in the video and under the description.
Well, rather than going over baker's percent, let's just talk about your normal formula. And because remember, this is an emergency dough. So what we're going to do is we're just going to take your standard dough formula that you and all of your people are familiar with. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my yeast and I'm going to increase the yeast level by 50%.
Okay.
So whatever amount of yeast that you're using, just add half again as much yeast.
Okay, so for, like you said, just keep your formula regular.
Yep.
Add half as much yeast. Half again as much
yeast. So if you're using 2 ounces of yeast, add 1 more ounce. So now for our emergency dough, we've got 3 ounces of yeast.
Okay.
Okay. The oil, whatever oil you've been using, use the standard amount. Salt, use the standard amount of salt. But when it comes down now to the sugar, use half as much sugar as you normally use.
Okay, so increase the yeast by 50% and decrease the sugar by 50%.
Yes.
Okay.
And when it comes to water, whatever number that you're using right now in baker's percent, use 2% more water.
2%
more water. Okay. So if your normal formula, this one here is calling for 60% water based on the flour weight. So normally it would be 58. And the reason why we add the extra water to it is because this dough will not have the luxury of fermentation to soften it. So I need to have the dough more malleable, allowing us to handle it better.
Earlier on,
so that extra water is going to help us. I've increased the yeast by 50% because we've got to get this thing going in a hurry.
Right. All right.
And I've increased my water temperature by 15 degrees. That's important. I've increased it by 15 degrees because that is going to jumpstart the yeast and make this whole thing move faster.
So the more yeast, the higher temperature in the water, all this is working towards a faster rising dough?
Yeah.
Okay.
And keep in mind that this dough has a maximum, let's call it shelf life, between 2 and 2.5 hours.
Also, when you say emergency, we're not making this and being able to use it the next day.
No.
It's one and done, we're out the door. So what's step one here in this process?
Step one, we're going to add our water.
All right, we're going to walk over here to our Unimix mixer. We've got a 40 quart here, we're just going to add the water. We've got a reverse spiral dough hook in there.
And we're just going to go ahead and add the salt and sugar right to the water.
Right to the bottom there? Okay.
You'll know me from other occasions. I'm inherently lazy, so I don't whip it in, I don't stir it in, I don't do anything to it.
We don't use a whisk or nothing, just keep the hook in there?
Just leave it in there.
All right.
And now I'm going to add my flour.
So we've got 5 pounds.
We'll have a total of 10 pounds today, but you might be dealing with 40 pounds or 50 pounds. Whatever the amount is, that would all go in at this time.
Right, this is just a mere demonstration. So we've got 10 pounds, we've got our water in there first, salt, sugar. We've added our flour.
Now the next ingredient to go in is going to be my instant dry yeast. I like instant dry yeast. It's so goof proof. This does not require rehydration, so we'll just use it like it is. Drop it right on top of the flour. Now I have the oil, but I'm holding the oil back. And we've talked before in other videos, the reason why we're holding it back is that it actually helps our flour to hydrate more thoroughly, more uniformly, and actually quicker. And it shortens our mixing time by about 2 to 3 minutes.
Okay.
So now we're going to begin mixing at low speed.
Low speed, how long?
For 2 minutes.
2 minutes. So we're going to low speed, raise our tray. There we go. All right, so we are here. Our 2 minutes are up. We're going to go ahead and open up our tray. We're going to lower our dough tray here.
And all we've done, I just want to show you what that dough looks like. The dry flour is pretty well gone. We still see little pieces of flour in there, but It's hydrated.
Well, yeah, it's a little more than the other dough recipes you've shown us because it's the 2% more water.
2% more water.
Right.
And that's going to give us a softer, more easily extensible dough.
Earlier on in the process.
Earlier on.
Okay, great.
Okay.
All right, so now we've got it going. So what do we want to do here? This has been doing for 2 minutes.
Now we're going to set it back for 2 minutes again.
2 minutes again.
And we're going to start mixing.
Okay. We on the same speed?
Same speed.
Okay. Low speed.
Low speed. And as we're mixing, I am simply going to pour in my oil. Now this can be olive oil. In this case, it is olive oil, but it could be salad oil or whatever your standard oil, whatever your normal formula calls for.
It's got a little bit of flavor in there. It's my own stash of olive oil that we got going here. This is going to be some good dough. We got to have this for lunchtime. So now we got this going for another 2 minutes. We've added our oil, and we're going to have to just let it go for 2 minutes, and then what's the next step? After
this is mixed for 2 minutes, and that's going to incorporate the oil. After the oil has been incorporated, we're then going to go to the next higher speed, and we're going to set our time for 8 minutes.
Okay, so it's basically kind of the same formula you gave us earlier?
It's going to be the same mixing sequence, everything the same as we normally use.
Okay, great.
No change. Again, the chips are down. We have to get this dough moving fast.
Yeah.
Now is not the time to be bringing up a new dough.
No, I got customers waiting. They're waiting on these pizzas.
Yep. And I want my people to be as comfortable and as familiar with this dough as possible. It will be different from our regular dough, but we're trying to keep it as similar as possible. Okay, now we've mixed it. Our oil has been thoroughly incorporated. Now we're going to step it up a notch. We're going to go to the next higher speed, and we're going to mix it for 8 minutes.
8 minutes, cranked up to the next higher speed, 8 minutes. Doors are shut. We are up, and here we go. All right, so we're at the end of 8 minutes here. Our dough has stopped mixing. The mixer
and let's just take a look and see what we got here. I've just taken a piece of dough and pulled it out of the mixer, and
would you call that the window pane test?
People call this the window pane test. And again, I'm not looking to have a lot of gluten development here. I'm going to get a little bit of that with my fermentation that the dough is going to get over the next hour. But if you notice, the dough is opening up pretty easily. I'm not really working hard to open it. It's a little bit sticky or tacky. That's because of that extra water that I've put into it. Now, we're going to need to get it out of the bowl. And again, just to facilitate getting it out of the bowl, let's start the mixer again.
Okay.
And I am just going to pour a very, very small amount of oil just down to coat that dough ball.
Now we're not trying to mix this in there. Okay.
That should be good.
That's it. There you go. And all this is doing is actually creating that greasy surface, so it's just going to fall right out of the bowl, right?
Yep.
Right out like butter. Now, a lot of people spend a lot of time hacking and sawing at this stuff, but we're just gonna.
There you go. Now, remember this is an emergency dough, so we want it to be warmer than our normal doughs. We're at 81.3.
But it is relatively chilly in here.
It's relatively chilly in here, and this is colder. It's about 6 degrees warmer than our regular doughs are.
Right, yeah.
So we're still running warmer.
Okay.
And the idea is that I'd like to see this up as high as 90 degrees. So if I was recording my dough temperature or my room temperature, I could readjust that water, maybe use even 100-degree water.
Right, because we started at 90 degrees, and this air intake's pulling in some really cold air from outside today. So just play with the water temperature. Definitely make it hotter than you want it the finished product to be.
Exactly.
Sure. Okay.
But don't go over 90 degrees.
Okay.
And
all right, so
now, just like we normally do, we're going to use our same scaling weights. We're making 14-inch pizzas, so we're using 14 ounces of dough at this point.
We only have a shelf life of like 1 to 2 hours.
Mm-hmm.
We're not going to put it in the walk-in at all. So this is is this ready to use right now? If I wanted to use one of these, I can make a pizza?
No, you couldn't. It would turn into, there's a fine line between pizza and pita, and you'd be crossing it. I guarantee the dough is going to bubble.
Okay.
At this point, all I need to do now is a very, very light coating of oil.
Okay.
Unlike other dough balls that we handled, what we're going to do now is we're in a hurry. And heat is a good thing for us. So at this point, I'm ready to put these away. And between an hour and a half, they should be ready to go.
And you just keep them out of the walk-in though. You just want to trap that heat in.
Do not put them in the walk-in. I want that heat to be trapped in there.
Right, okay.
And even if you don't have space, find some space to store it outside of the walk-in.
Right. All right, so we are back. It's been about an hour and 20 minutes. We had a fulfilling lunch.
Yep.
Very well fed, sir?
Absolutely.
Okay, good.
Absolutely.
We just left this out at room temperature. This is our emergency dough. This was the extra dough ball. Honestly, we don't need this, so we're just going to get rid of it. All right, now what we really want to show you is we left out. This is the emergency dough. We saw how small and tightly coiled they were before we left.
If you remember before what they looked like, they looked nice and tight and small. And here we are now. They're actually touching, and actually they look pretty close to a dough ball that might be as much as 24 hours old.
Exactly, yeah. So I'm going to take this one, thin them out from the herd. Definitely got some air to it. I can feel it already. I can feel all the air pushing in or pushing out from it.
Now you have to remember that this dough may not open up exactly the same as your other doughs, but you can open it up. It opens up fairly easily. Before you couldn't open it up at all. Now, again, it's an emergency dough. This is what stands between you and not selling pizzas. So it's not something that we look forward to making, but it's enough to get us through those hard times. Once or twice when it may happen, hopefully no more than that. There's your key to staying open.
Exactly. Nobody wants to put up that close sign for sure.
There you go.
So, yeah, we got ourselves a nice dough here. It's got some air pockets. It's going to give it a good crumb structure on the inside.
Yep.
It's going to allow the heat to get in there. Really good. I mean, this will get you by in a pinch. As you said, it's not, it's not the kind of dough you want to use every day. You don't want to start out your day and make an emergency dough and just make an emergency dough all day long. But this will help keep you guys up and running when something happens, God forbid, to your walk-in, or just you're rocking it out so much that you just run out of dough. So
one of the expressions I use is towards the end of the day, you're almost out of dough and a Greyhound bus pulls up. I can go ahead and I can start one of these first thing in the morning. Remember, it doesn't need refrigeration. So I can start it first thing in the morning, and this has got a little over an hour on it. Could it go for 2 hours? Absolutely.
yeah.
And it tends to get a little bit better. After about 2.5 hours, though, it starts going the other way. It goes downhill. So it is a viable solution if you get a request in that's going to push your dough quantity beyond what you've got.
Once again, Tom, hey, thank you so much for showing us
Okay,
this
Brian.
emergency dough. This has been Cooking with PMQ. I'm Brian Hernandez with our very special guest, the dough doctor, Mr. Tom Lehmann. He just showed us how to make some emergency dough, so you better never, ever tell someone you can't make them a pizza. Tune in next time, and we'll show you some more tricks.